Hi everybody, Deep Elements here. Thank you for joining me. And in today's video, what I'm going to do is show you how to take a garment and rig it in an A pose. And then go ahead and work the weights, bring it into a T pose, and then be able to export that garment into another virtual environment. So for example, this garment here was created in an A pose, and what I did in my Blender is I changed my rotation down to 58% for both of my arms and 10% for my legs, and I created the garment within Marvelous Designer and exported it here to ZBrush, and I retopologized it so I get a really nice even quad topology on the item, so I can later on go ahead and use it with the animation of the rig. So this is what it looks like here. I did separately UV map each sleeve, the torso, and within this program I did give it an inside so that it could be double-sided. However, I only made it partially double-sided. I got rid of geometry inside that wouldn't be visible and therefore wouldn't be necessary in an effort to try and save polygon count. So we did our processing in here and exported out. And I say, okay, let's dive right into this. So we have our model. We basically imported it here on top of the rig. It's in the A pose. It's not bound. Right now I have my armature selected and I'm in pose mode. I'll select the garment here. As you can see in pose mode as well, it is not bound to the garment. So when we start this off, it's important to understand that it expects that this is in a T-pose position. So this avatar is not in a T-pose position. We are posing it into what we're using as an A-pose. So we brought our garment in this way, but we want to rig it to our armature. And it's very easy to do that, but if we do it in this pose mode, the armature is going to rig, but it's going to rig with the armature identifying itself as still being in a T-pose, which means the sleeves are going to be tucked into the body. So what we need to do is a little work here. It's totally fine that we have this in the A pose, and actually it is a bit better perhaps to create it in an A pose. A lot of designers do prefer to do that, as do I. However, here what you'll need to do with the armature is you'll need to make a modification and tell it basically that this is the new pose. And how you do that is by identifying it as a new rest pose. So we should go ahead and do that first. And on your left hand side under your Avastar tab, give yourself a little room. Under rig display as well, use SL base. The SL base bones are the ones that are going to apply to your shirt being rigged to the avatar. These bones here are for animation. You can keep them there. I'm going to get rid of them for now. Select a bone here. Alright, scroll all the way down and it will be under posing. And now under posing in here you have apply as rest pose. And this will do exactly what I said it will. Have the armature identify itself as this now being the established T pose. I unselect, also use Avastar meshes because I'm using a custom mesh and I don't want two bodies. And with everything selected here, I click apply as rest pose, and I'll do that now. And this step is necessary before, again, binding it to the rig, because it won't identify this as being in this position, and it will throw the sleeves into the body. So now that we've done that, over here, leave this, how it says here, as is or no. Do not mark it yes yet. There's another, instead of doing yes to preserve volume here, we're going to choose that on the shirt in just a moment. So now you can go ahead and go into object mode, kind of clean that out. Go over to the shirt and select the shirt, and at this stage in the game with the shirt selected, you can hold down your shift key and then right click your armature, and at this point in the game scroll up and it would be bind armature. Under your toolbox you can select bones or meshes. In this case I'm going to use meshes. A lot of people choose meshes. Bind to armature. This will take a moment. It's going to take all of these different bones into consideration and apply them to all the area of the mesh. Okay, so it is now bound, and what that means is this shirt has weights on it. I've just selected the shirt now, and to give you an idea as to what's happened with it, let's select the rig again and go up to the rig display and show those animation rings, arms, legs. Let's go into pose mode, and now that it's rigged, the shirt will move with the arm. However, let's move it up there. Holding down Shift and then pressing B gives me a selector option for where I want to focus my view. I'll draw a box here. That becomes my center view. As you can see, there's rippling and distortion. I don't want that. We need to get rid of that. So let's work on that right now. I'm going to do Control Z, and so we're here. Now let's go to the shirt and we're going to work on those weights I was just talking about. There are two different kinds of bones that you're going to use, as I mentioned. You have these bones, which your shirt will use to bind to your armature. And then you have these, and these will also generally be used, don't quote me on this, but I believe for the avatar to be bound to the armature. So we have the shirt selected, and these are all the different weights that have been applied to the shirt that allow it to move when I make changes in pose mode. All the ones with M are the ones that would more apply here. All the other ones in capital letters, L hand, neck, chest, those are the ones I want to use. So let's get rid of the ones with M. I also get rid of hand on this piece. Get rid of all the M's. It's a fairly fast process. Okay, I'm going to go into weight paint mode, and remember, only my shirt is selected. Alright, and in weight paint mode, over here I do have my pelvis selected, so it's showing you the weights for the pelvis. And each one of these is actually applying a weight onto your item, and depending on how those weights are distributed onto the object will determine how it's going to appear when it's manipulated in pose mode. And you see the problem is when you look here, you can see that it's not a very smooth gradient, and that's part of really a big issue with it. When the movement occurs, it's not a natural movement. So to do that, I basically go through a very quick blur. So I go up to Tools. I'm in weight paint mode. I change this to blur. I put my radius all the way up, strength all the way up. Zoom out so I have the entire piece in view. I'm at the top at chest, and I have a general number of amounts that I click. Here I'll do per se 10, and as you can see, it blurred it significantly. I'll give it 3 more. Clavicle, as you can see there, just to give you an example, that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I just Control Z'd it though. Always be consistent. So we'll give it 7. And then we'll go down and do that for these. Just go all the way down. Do the same thing. I'll do 5 on the handles though. Almost done. Oh, and we got right hand. I get rid of right hand. Alright. So what we did now is we smoothed over all of our gradients. I'll do the Shift B again. I'm going to focus just here. As you can see, we're all nice and smooth. We'll go to different ones. Pelvis is nice and smooth. Left clavicle is nice and smooth. So you get an idea. We just blurred, made our gradients a lot smoother. So now, if I were to go ahead and pose it, you'll see we don't have that distortion anymore at the top. What we do have, what I mentioned before, when we went ahead and did our rest pose, we chose to keep the as-is function, and that had to do with preserving the volumes. And as you can see, we're popping through here a little bit. I think what we want to do at this point is, with the shirt selected, go over to where the wrench is, and we want to click on Preserve Volume. That's going to be important. And the sculpting portion of it, in my opinion, should be done before the binding. So what I'm going to do is we're going to do the sculpting part first real quick. I'm just going to revert. So here we are. We started off with this piece here. Now that you have some understanding, we're going to do it thoroughly. I'm going to do some of the sculpting for it. With the shirt selected, I'm going to go ahead and go into sculpt mode. And I have here radius and strength. What I want to do is I just want to make sure that initially, before it's ever rigged at all, that it kind of fills the body the way it's supposed to. Because this is how it's going to get its weights. I don't want the body extruding from the garment. So, you know, kind of a little delicately, carefully take care of that real quick. It doesn't have to be perfect, because a lot of times you're going to have your alpha having your body invisible anyway, but still, the shape of the shirt is kind of important, just to make sure it looks natural and fills your avatar in a natural, fitted manner. Okay, there are some little bends there, but we can work on that another time in another video. You can be obviously more meticulous in your own pieces. I'll bring these up just a little bit, and then we'll work on the cuffs. There we go. You don't really want to deform your garment too much. Alright, so we have that. We're going to do Shift B again. Go down here to the cuff, get an idea. We don't want to deform the shape too much, but we do want to correct it. I've done a few test runs, so I have an idea as to how much to do it. Don't be afraid to take your time a little bit with it, you know, to get it right. Okay. And remember, with this sleeve, I had gotten it good last time as well. Relatively simple. I gave it a test run to get a good idea. Fix that sleeve up. There we go. It might take a little finessing, you know, but it's worth it because, you know, it's your work. So you get it a little bit better like that, and I'll do it just a little smidge more in case it's going to be off in a virtual environment. Alright, so there we go. We taking care of our collars, sleeve in the back. Oh, one more thing we can take care of here. This is how you really do it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna go ahead and tuck it down here just a little bit. Do your sculpting before you go ahead and take care of some of the other stuff. That way your mesh is like in that position when you apply your weights. That's why it's important. When your weights are applied, you want the mesh to then be in that position. So that looks fairly natural. Go ahead and bring that up just a little bit. There we go. Nothing else bleeding through. Should be good. We brought it down just a little bit. Alright, I'm going to say let's go with this, okay? Alright. So, after you get through that stage, which wasn't so bad, was it? We have our piece here, and now it's sculpted. We understand the binding part, so we'll go ahead and do that right now. So, let's go ahead, go to here, let's put it into pose mode again, go to Avastar, rig display. I don't know if you need to do this, however, I do like to be consistent. Alright, so we have that selected. We're going to go into posing, and we're going to do apply as rest pose. I don't like to choose the also Avastar one because then it will put in the other one. We'll have two bodies. Apply as rest pose. That was relatively quick. Just to test it, it'll deform if I do yes at this point. On the shoulders, yes. Alright, so it was successful. Control Z. Control Z. Do it nice and fresh. Okay. Alright, always do things fresh. So we did our... I'm going to bring up now our posing rings again. Actually, no, we'll go into object mode. We'll do the bind now. So we have our object selected, holding down shift, right click on the armature. Choose meshes, bind to armature. And again, it'll just take 1 second. It's applying all those bones there. We'll do the same quick filtering, except now, as you can see, we already pre-sculpted it to not have any kind of overlap. Alright, so now it's bound. We'll select just the armature, then select the body. Let's go right into weight paint mode. And over here, we're going to go to our bones. Remember to delete the M's, and you'll see how some of the M's, they also have weights. I'm getting rid of the hands as well, because we don't need those. See how the elbow there has weights? These also have, so we get rid of them. Alright, and believe it or not, we've done quite a bit of stuff here. We'll be making our way very soon. Torso. Alright, so we have all of those, and we can go right up to the top, and again, we're going to do the quick blur action all the way down. So go to blur, radius, strength, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Why not, right? So I'm going to come down here and do that. And I'll show you 8, 9, 10. I'll do it 10 times of those. There are subtle weights on those. Alright, so we blended our weights now. Alright, object mode. And now just to do a little test to make sure that all that is well, let's go back to our rig display, do arms and legs. We're going to need to use that anyway here. Let's go into pose mode, and let's zoom in a little bit and move that arm. Excellent, so everything is nice and smooth here. Cool. Object mode. Select this now, and again go to the wrench and make sure preserve volume is clicked. Alright, excellent. Alright, so now that our weights are good, and what we want to do is we're going to be bringing this into a T-pose, and again we're going to reset it back to being a T-pose. So we'll again convert to rest pose once we get this into the T-pose, but by doing the weights at this point, there is no correcting that distortion once it's put into the T-pose. Once you move it, trying to adjust your weights will not solve the problem. Smoothing the weights before the initial movement, the weights are perfect for this exact position. So when you smooth it from here, it maintains that throughout the remaining action. So now that we're ready to go, let's go ahead and go into pose mode, and we're going to put it back. This is where I know that it was 58 degrees for the arms and 10 degrees for the legs, and there's a very slight weight here, so even with the legs this will conform to the body better when these are all returned to their original status. So click this, it's on the X and Z axis, 58, okay, and then over here same thing, got to double click here to bring it over to that pose ring, and I believe that would be negative 58 now. Excellent. Go over to here, double click, X and Z. I'm not sure if it's 10 or negative 10, but we'll figure it out. Okay, negative 10. And last but not least, this one. This one will be 10. Okay. Go back into object mode. So now we have everything returned to a T-pose, but again, this is just the way we're posing it. It's looking at the rest pose as being the 58 degrees off from this. So, what we want to do now, there are just a few steps here. Go back to Avastar. You can take your pose rings off. Select your armature. Go into pose mode. And again, what you're going to do is go down to posing and do apply as rest pose, everything as you did before. We won't need to unbind the shirt. And I don't know if you noticed, but the preservation of the volumes allowed the shirt to fill in a certain way, which is really good for the wear. So we don't need to make it yes here because it's already doing it in the armature. So, and I'm going to select that as well, as you can see. Alright, so we converted this to our rest pose, and now what we need to do is we need to lock in the mesh of this shirt. You see, there's another concept here. Let's go back to object mode, select the shirt. There's another concept here. This shirt was brought in as an object, and an FBX should I say, but it's an object and it was brought in an A pose. This is a completely different pose for the shirt. The object itself actually needs to kind of have this baked into it, and that's precisely what we're going to do. And unless that's done, there's actually going to be seemingly like weight differentials and a lot of shoulder distortion and all kinds of problems, but this seems to really fix it, and it has to do with baking in this new position for the actual layout of the 3D mesh. From what I can see, it doesn't seem to alter or ruin the UV mapping that's already been coordinated for it. So how we do that, let's do that now. We have the mesh here, we have our armature. I'm just going to select the armature, go into pose mode, and again select one. And now if you notice over here under skinning, you have bind to two meshes. your armature is bound to two meshes. It's bound to the shirt, and the other mesh is the actual body. And when we got our weights for our shirt, we could choose between getting the weights from these bones or getting the weights from the body. And remember the weight differences between the body and the shirt. The body got its weights from these bones, while the shirt gets its weights from the mesh that already has its weights from the bones. So anyway, what we're going to do here is we're going to click that bake to two meshes. Click now. It'll take a moment. And the way you test it is afterwards, you unbind the shirt. And if when you unbind the shirt it stays in this position, then you know that that bake locked in correctly. So now that we finished that, go into object mode and we're going to actually test that. Now select the shirt and go up here and unbind from armature. Okay, great. Control Z to undo that. So we know that that's been done. Now what that did is that locked in everything that we're going to need for this shirt to respond smoothly back in the A pose and in the manner in which we intended when we created it. And we were able to go ahead and bind it to our armature by manipulating its pose to the A pose and change the object and bring it up into a T pose by actually binding it as the tool to do it. So at this point we're actually ready to go ahead and test this out. So we have our shirt here. From what I can see, we're ready to go. So you scroll all the way down here under your Avastar tab and you go to Export to. And here I have a lot of test different little files. I'll call it test 2. I like that. Test 2. Alright, so we're exporting that. And of course, you know, you can save other copies in case you needed to make one or two tweaks on the arms or whatever, but we'll see. You'll get a few little errors and things on there generically. Open up a Firestorm. I highly recommend Firestorm. Additionally, I highly recommend using the beta grid. The beta grid allows you to do uploads and do testing, and all of it is free. It won't cost you any lindens. So that way when you are ready to bring stuff into the actual grid that people use, then you can go ahead and do that and pay the applicable charges. Yeah, there's a previous test shirt I was working on. Had some material issues with it though, but I was able to straighten that out. Alright, let's get this off of me. And as you can see, I have parts of my body off to make sure that they're not a problem. I'll come off in a minute. Alright, so we're going to upload this mesh, and it's test 2. Alright, and for the lowest I'm going to make that 1. Under options, include skin weights. This way it includes the weights, otherwise it won't be bound. And now under physics as well, when you have mesh that you're wearing and such, physics are completely irrelevant. But nonetheless, I do usually use a custom physics file to decrease the just the impact of the object itself. There we go. Preview, analyze. Clicking analyze seems to lock that in. And in just any moment the color of this will change. There we go. Alright, so I'll change the text here to test 2, and then we'll calculate our weights and fees. The shirt has some complexity. It's got, I believe, 5 different materials to it. It's got 2 sleeves, a torso, it's got the trim items, and then it has the inside made as all one material. each of them with their own UV map as well. And it'll take a second. It's kind of complex. It's alright, so cool. 19, that's not too bad. 22 land impact, that's really not bad either, considering, you know, how nice that's going to be when textured. And I will continue and make a second video very shortly and do the texturing part of it using Substance Painter. So feel free to go ahead and check that out when this video is over. And we're uploading. As you can see here, I removed a lot of my arms and, you know, just keeping visible the places that I want there. Once in a while, Second Life can give you errors like that. It's not always a real error, so we just try it again. Sometimes it's a little glitch. It does that once in a while. So don't throw it away. Do not throw it away. Not necessarily. For this piece it does take like I don't know, 20 seconds or something like that to analyze the right upload. Shouldn't be a problem. It's just Second Life can be a little glitchy, so, you know, bear with it once in a great while, especially when you're doing, you know, whatever. But it always leaves you on the edge of your seat, you know. Alright, so we've got it up there. Like I said, Second Life can be a little glitchy sometimes. What I usually do when I upload an object as well is before I do anything with it, I do alter the permissions, so it's copy only. And now I'm going to go ahead and add it. It's a rigged mesh. It's fitted rigged mesh. You might see parts of my body poke out depending on, but here we have it. Let's check out the sleeves. I usually do stuff like that to see if it's bleeding through. It looks acceptable anyway from this quick view. Yeah, that's looking pretty nice. I don't know about you, but I'm rather liking it. Look at that. Oh, yeah. Okay, so to test out the materials, go to Edit, and the way that it is through Select Face. So sometimes I get this little glitch where on one of them I might have to select two. It's not always like that, but on this one it seems to do that when I have my torso. Go over here to Texture, take Show Highlights off, change that down here, hold down my Alt key, and I'll give it kind of like, I'll give it that color right there. Yeah. Now I'll select my collar and I'll bring that down and make that kind of a little yeah, and now we'll select the sleeves, something of those. So anyway, just a basic demonstration here about how to take something from an A pose, how to go ahead and rig it to your armature and then bring it into Second Life as a compatible SLT pose, or that T pose that's compatible for other virtual environments or uses. And here's one demonstration of how to go ahead and do that. And in my next video I'm going to go ahead and take this shirt and I'm going to take it out from Blender and I'm going to go ahead and do some texturing here in Substance Painter and just give you kind of like a little bit of an insight into how to do that and some of the considerations that are needed in order to successfully do that. And the reason that's important is because during the actual design process of your garment, being mindful of that is what allows you to be able to have those allowances in texturing. So they both do go hand in hand, but as you can see here with just a generic lighting and coloring from SL, this looks pretty good. Just to play around with it a teeny bit more, we'll do Select Face, take Show Highlights away, and let's select the collars, and with this SL's features, let's give it maybe a little shininess, you know. Let's give that a medium shininess. And let's give the torso a low shininess. As you can see, I did that with the previous top, but it's very playful to play with that. But anyway, you get the idea. So thank you so much for checking out my video, and stay tuned for the texturing video in Substance Painter. Thank you.